Today, on Independent Wrestling Profiles, we're talking with the Crimson Lion, Marz the Specialist. When did the professional wrestling industry first enter your life? What are your earliest memories of becoming a wrestling fan?
So wrestling started actually as the video games. I wasn't allowed to play the video games, but I was like 4 to 6 years old. And I walk into my brother playing probably the PS1 at the time, maybe the PS2 at that point. And he was playing Here Comes the Pain, like Shut Your Mouth and stuff like that. So I would sneak in and I would try to play a little bit. But if I ever get caught, I got yelled at, obviously, because, especially at that time, like just coming out of the Attitude Era, early ruthless aggression, it wasn't allowed for the kids. And then I kind of fell out of it for a while. Like it was probably 4 to 6 years old, a little bit of a wait, and then 10 years old, I walk in on my mom watching Monday Night Raw. It was actually the episode of John Cena doing a gauntlet match against all the Nexus. That was the first episode of wrestling I've ever watched in my life.
Oh, wow. So you actually just started because you just wanted to play the games, and it wasn't until years later that you actually saw the product?
Yeah, basically.
Was it almost like an instant thing? Like as soon as you saw that episode of, I'm assuming it was Raw, if it was Cena and Nexus, that you were just kind of hooked on to the actual television program at that point?
So I liked wrestling when I first started watching. I wouldn't say I was a super fan. I kind of watched here and there. It wasn't until I watched Edge. Edge was my guy. As soon as I saw him, that's when I was like, oh, this is what I want to do in life. I want to be like him. This is my career path. This is my life. This is my goal now. When I saw him, which is weird because that was when he was in the feud with Kane, which looking back, bad feud. But but for a 10-year-old kid, I was like, that's the guy. He's in my head. He was super cool. So that's when I became a huge wrestling fan. This was my thing.
So that actually sounds like it happened pretty quickly. Like you were exposed to it and almost immediately give or take a little bit of time, but then you saw Edge and you're like, I want to do this. It wasn't like a gradual thing that built up over time and eventually you were just like, man, I've been watching this for so long. I want to be a part of it. Like right away you knew?
Yeah, it was probably a month or two because the Nexus stuff happened August and September time. So yeah, it was right before I won the world title at TLC. So it was about a month or two. And I was like, yeah, this is my thing. And I became hooked. My dad liked wrestling, so he had a great time because we could watch wrestling together. My mom was like, I like it, I guess. I watch it, but she's not a super fan like me and my dad, right? But I got hooked. I got all the DVDs. I got the video games. I got everything you could imagine. I was hooked.
Did you have an opportunity in or around that time to actually experience a live show, whether it was like a WWE house show or an independent show, just to get a chance to feel the actual atmosphere of a show rather than just seeing it on a TV somewhat removed?
My first live show was a SmackDown in 2011. It was August 2011. I think Randy just won the belt at SummerSlam, so it was right after. So it was August or maybe early September, but it was in Calgary. The only thing I really remember from that show was the dark match. It was Christian versus Randy Orton in a dark match for the world title. That's the only thing I really remember. I know Mark Henry was there, and then he was in the World of Pain time or the Hall of Pain time. And I remember they had to redo the Heath Slater Sin Cara match because they botched the first time.
Oh,
because SmackDown was pre-recorded at the time, so they could do we don't like the finish, or we don't like this. Go redo the match. I remember as a kid being very confused by that.
did it happen right after? I've never actually been live for something like that.
So they did the match, went to the back, and I think a talking segment happened, and then a commercial break happened, and then they made their entrances again. And I remember looking at my dad and being like, "What's happening? Why is Heath Slater coming back out?" I was so lost. And then for a live event, they don't act like anything happened. They literally just come out, bell rings, and they just basically go straight to the finish, and then redo the finish that Vince didn't like.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so no context for the live crowd. It just happens and they leave again and they go to the next thing. And then it was pre-recorded that happened on Tuesday. On Friday, I watched SmackDown again. I'm like, oh, what? And
I guess any of the Heath Slater and Sin Cara fans in the audience would have been happy to see them twice.
Yeah, they were thrilled. I think that's probably about the time I started realizing what wrestling was, especially because we go to live events and being able to like see it. I had a pretty good seat, so I saw it close up in person, and like my brain starts kind of like the wheels start turning a bit, you know. Especially because like obviously friends at school are always like, you know, that stuff's fake, right? And I'm like, no, it's not. I see them punch each other. I see them, you know, all that stuff. And then the wheels start turning a bit more, and you watch more and more.
So take me through a little bit of the steps that you took to actually get into training. I'm assuming obviously this was a little bit further down the road. I don't think a 10-year-old was being thrown into the ring to start bumping or anything like that. But where were you at in your life? What were you kind of up to at the time that you actually made that decision? You know what? I'm gonna look into this.
So it was probably like right before I turned 18, I kind of started looking into it. But I grew up as a chubbier guy. And like I started losing weight in high school a bit. And then with amateur wrestling, I had like a little fracture in my ankle. So that like set me back, especially because it was like halfway for provincials. So I was like also like depressed because of it. So I just like all of my like progress went all the way back. So I think the time I started going to the gym after high school, I was like 285. I was a thick boy. Take something from thickness. I was a thick boy. And I remember I got a gym membership and I was like, well, I can't be, I'm a shorter guy, short kings, me and Reid. I'm a shorter guy. And I was like, I can't be short in this like 285-pound frame and like do what like Pac does or Dan O'Brien does or like all these guys, right? I can't do that. So I started going to the gym. I dropped 125 pounds. Yeah,
Wow.
125 pounds, got down to 160. And then that was about 2019. And then I started like bulking up a bit more. And I was like, okay, now I feel confident in my body. I feel confident in my like athletic abilities now. I'm going to look into this. So I found a school in Calgary. And keep in mind the date I just said 2019. I started going in like late 2019, early 2020, gets shut down because of COVID. So I probably didn't start going and actually training until June 2021, I think it was. And that's when I could actually like sink my teeth into it and actually like, learn because like I only had like I think 2 classes before everything got shut down. And then yeah, I trained for a few month course. I did some security work for some local indie shows, and then I luckily have the athletic ability to like convince people at the time that I was good because like every early wrestler will tell you they aren't good at the beginning, but I looked the part. Everyone like made the joke like you're ginger, you're unique. You have to put on a show. Okay, so yeah, I got lucky, and I think 2 months in, I had my first match, and was off to races there.
Okay, well let's rewind just a little bit. You got roughly like 2 classes in or so before the world shut down, which obviously impacted a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I am curious kind of how you keep the momentum rolling during that time frame. But do you happen to recall any of like the thoughts or feelings that you experienced when you did those first couple classes? Was it almost like an eye-opening experience to maybe more than you expected? Was it just a natural integration, or was there something that was like really challenging for you? Like how did it feel to actually just start pursuing that dream?
So I got very lucky because I was like big amateur wrestler in high school. So like the roles, for example, that came super natural to me because we do roles and stuff like that in training already in high school wrestling. Um, and like I said, I study this stuff. I had DVDs. I had the network. I wish I still had the stack of DVDs because it was probably about my height. It's probably about 5 foot worth of DVDs. And
Okay.
I studied this stuff. I was a student of the game, and I just transitioned so naturally. Like there's a few things from amateur pro wrestling that like is a little bit different. Like lockups, for example, you're not trying to kill your opponent. Um, but yeah, like my coach, the first person who ever coached me, he in wrestling goes by Keishi Mitsunaga. Um, and he really liked me because I had his kind of stature. I was like shorter, but I was bigger guy. And I remember first day of training, he would like maybe go through the bumps, maybe go through the rolls, all like the basic stuff. And he looks at me, he's like, "Do I learn how to do suplexes?" And this is the first thing. You should not be doing first day suplexes. And I was like, "Sure." So we started doing suplex, and I basically became like his little action figure because he was like, this kid, like, he's athletic, he knows wrestling. So he just like made me go through a bunch of the stuff he wanted me to go through, what he wanted to see. And that was kind of my first day of training, like doing things I should not have been doing, but it worked out. And then, yeah, I had like one more training class after that, where probably generally the same stuff, maybe some more rope running, maybe some more here and there stuff. And then everything shuts down. And the only thing that kept me going was like at home workouts, which really, what can you do?
No, not much at all. Did you spend any of that time maybe thinking about maybe even just like a persona or an like a image of yourself that you wanted to portray?
I always knew I wanted to be, because I loved amateur wrestling. I always loved Kurt Angle when he was the wrestling machine. I always knew I wanted to be something like that. That's why to this day I have the singlet still. I have, you know, the long hair to be in front of my face because I'm kind of like this big serious wrestler guy, and which is what I wanted to be at first. And then obviously I started to understand like you can't just like Kurt Angle. He always says it's always about the moments, and it was about being able to be like malleable. He was goofy at times, but I didn't really understand that at first. I tried to be like, I'm the wrestling specialist. I can out wrestle you. But that's like that only gets you so far. It wasn't until I actually started doing stuff with Reid where I was able to bring more of my own personality into wrestling. Because I never thought I could do like jokey videos and put them out there because I was always like the shy kid, which is probably why I also chose like a more serious gimmick because I was always like the shy kid walking through the halls, you know. But yeah, Reid was what helped me actually like bring out more of my character and like be able to flesh myself out more.
Was shedding that shyness something that was like a gradual occurrence during your training, or did it just kind of like at one point, you hooked up with Reid and something just clicked, and all of a sudden you were a little bit more confident with letting yourself out there?
Yeah, it was like gradual in the sense of like I got more comfortable in front of like a crowd of people. And I think it's easier because like you hear a lot of wrestlers say like public speaking versus doing like a promo. Two very different things. Because a promo you can like integrate yourself into, and public speaking is like reading off a graph or a chart or whatever, you know what I mean? But like the first few matches, like I don't know what I'm doing in front of a crowd. I'm just wrestling. I'm not doing much crowd work. I'm just doing moves for the sake of doing moves. And like as time went on, I think me and Reid didn't start doing things together for until like 9 months in, I want to say. And like obviously I started doing more crowd work before then, but it was always like basic still, right? It was always like white meat baby face, I can suplex you. And then with Reid, at the time, the first video we ever did together, actually never released. It was an Archer Report. It's Thaddeus Archer the third for LPW. He did the Archer Report at the times. And it was just like I was just going off the cuff and I was just saying some dumb things. I'm like, and I remember he made a joke. His wife was like, "You guys should be called the Short Kings." Haha, funny, funny. So that started as a joke. But I remember in that video, I was like we have to be a team. Like you and me, we have to be together. Like I need a partner. Like you and me, you can be the Short Kings. And he had to walk off camera because he almost started laughing. Like that was not planned. I was just saying something his wife said. And he was like, "Damn it!" And that kind of like let me start being me more. And then me and Reid started making the videos, and I started being like basically like Kurt Angle, like this dummy who is very capable in the ring, but just a bonehead outside of the ring.
So was it like as soon as you heard you say the words "the Short Kings" that you were like, "This is it. This is what we've been looking for"?
Like kind of, yeah. Like I don't really know how my brain like got from being serious. Then we had a little promo in the middle, and then I said something dumb, and I'm like, okay, I guess I can be dumb now. Like I don't know what clicked there, but I was able to start doing more goofy things, not just behind camera, but in the ring. And then I was able to like flesh out Marz as a person more. Like it's no longer I'm a serious wrestler. It's oh, I can be a serious wrestler, but I also have, you know, a goofy side. I have a sad side, a serious side. Like I was able to become like an actual character instead of just a white meat guy who suplexes people.
Yeah, there's only so much you can do with just a
Yeah.
suplex machine, I guess.
Yeah.
So take me through a little bit of the highlights of your career thus far, whether that be some of your favorite matches, whether they be good or just memorable for any sort of milestone reasons, fan interactions, or even just like OMG moments where you were like, I can't believe I'm talking to this person or visiting this city or watching this show.
So the first moment that was like, oh my God. For me was, I want to say it was only 3 or 4 months in. The promoter for RCW, he goes, we're bringing Fandango. We want you to wrestle him. And I was
Wow.
like, what? And like for me, that's like a guy I watched on TV. That's a guy who like I saw beat Chris Jericho at WrestleMania 29. Like for me, that was kind of crazy. And that was like the first moment where I was like almost like kind of fanboying a little because I'm like, this guy, like, he's like, I'm here.
Yeah.
He's the top. And since then I like mellowed out when I like meet actual wrestlers because I'm like, I've been part of it for long enough to be like, okay, I understand like what I am to you and like how this business works now. But like since then I've had great opportunities against Kushida. That match is one of my favorites to this day. Blake Christian, Silas Young, Ricky Shane Page. Those are a lot of my like bigger matches I've had that I'm very proud of. My favorite match that I've probably been a part of. It's hard to say, but I think my go-to to this day is me versus Stephen Crow, the Ransom Cowboy, in a ladder match. I remember on that show, the main event was supposed to be Nicole Matthews versus Speedball Mike Bailey.
Oh, wow.
But I remember they both looked at the card and saw we're in a ladder match. They said, "You guys are the main," and we're like, "Oh, okay." So yeah, like we had to follow Speedball and Mike Bailey and Nicole Matthews, and that's like a given good match. Like there's no doubt it's a good match. It depends how good, right? And we went out there, and I remember after they told us for the main event, the promoter goes, "You guys have as much time as you want. You guys go an hour if you want." And we basically went an hour,
Wow.
and we did an hour, and like the crowd was there the whole time. We went out there and we just had a barn burn of a match for the CWS Championship of Salvation. That was my first singles title in LPW, my first singles title in probably like 2 years at that point. And it was a really feel good moment, especially for my character at the time, because I was kind of coming off the storyline with Seven, where I was kind of heelish, but not because I wanted to, because it was like this like cult. So they wanted to cheer me, but I was always kind of like being held down. But since this is like a singles match, Seven wasn't out there. They were allowed to cheer me, and it was a really feel good moment. I really enjoyed that match, the storytelling, and the fact that we both killed each other.
You've referenced quite a few names there that you've already got to share a locker room with. I mean, Kushida, Fandango, Speedball Mike Bailey is absolutely one of the best. Is there any sort of like feedback or advice, or even just like some conversations that you were able to be witness to that really stuck with you, that really helped mold you as a performer?
I would say I got very lucky because when Speedball came around the first time, I don't believe it was the time with Nicole Matthews. I think it was the time he faced Michael Richard Blaze. He did a seminar, and I remember he came Thursday, did the seminar, and watched the shows both Thursday and Friday, and gave like feedback on matches. And I remember just being so bummed about my match on Friday. It's like I could do so much better, and like I was like he's watching, and like I felt like I like disappointed myself, and maybe because like the pressure, especially at the seminar. And I remember talking to him, and he was like, "No, you're all good. Like I see something in you, and you're all good." I remember we spoke on Instagram a little bit after too, and like very giving guy. I was very happy to talk to him. No, nothing but good things to say about him, and I appreciate all the things he's taught me.
Yeah, it must have been one heck of a boost to get a compliment from someone like that to tell you, like,
Mm.
no, I see something in you. You'll have to excuse me if I do the very cliche wrestling interview thing and ask you, who are some of the dream opponents? You don't have to justify it in reality. You don't have to explain how it would happen. But who are some of the competitors? We'll say mainstream kind of big brand and also some indie guys that you haven't been able to square up with yet that you just absolutely want to tie up with one day.
So this is a running gag around here because this match has been supposed to happen so many times. It has never happened. This man tweeted in 2022. He was like, I want this match to happen. And people have tried to book it, hasn't happened. I want to wrestle Travis Williams.
Okay.
And it's never happened. And it's just become a running gag now. And everyone's like, you're never going to wrestle him. You can't wrestle him. So that's always number one. I always put that out number one because it just never happens, but it's always supposed to happen.
Okay.
Travis Williams, he's number one. But obviously, Travis Williams, Juice Icarus. I'd love Sinner and Saint versus the Short Kings. For more like dream stuff, my dream opponent, obviously, this is probably never going to happen because of the condition of his career, is Bryan Danielson.
Okay.
If that could happen, I could die happy. But obviously, like, he's semi-retired and very unlikely that's ever going to happen. But that'd be a dream. I'd love to wrestle Speedball Mike Bailey. That was another one that almost happened, but didn't happen, sort of deal. Josh Alexander, I'd love to wrestle. Probably like a bunch of other names. There's Pac, Swerve. No, there's a plethora of names out there. I probably could list them all. Indie people, like I said, Travis and Judas. A lot of Canadian names, obviously, because I'm in Canada. I want to wrestle Vaughn. I want to wrestle Fuerza. I want to have a singles match with Evan Rivers, Nicole Matthews, Artemis Spencer. There's just like a plethora of, especially in Canada, there's a plethora of names I still haven't wrestled. I'd love to wrestle. And then just throughout the world, there's too many to name.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I hear Vaughn, Fuerza, Judas. They come up a lot, so there's probably very good reason for that. Let's step out of the ring for a minute. So, any sort of hobbies, pastimes that you enjoy when you just need to get away from it, recharge the batteries, maybe plug your podcast for a second there. But who is Marz outside of, the squared circle?
So like you said, me and Reid, we love making the dumb videos. We do the podcast, Short Kings podcast, and Spotify and YouTube, as well as a bunch of we've done like mini movies. Though I really enjoy making. I love being a creative. I've done some like small acting gigs. I found the other day of an IMDb page, which I think is hilarious.
That's all.
My girlfriend looked me up because I think she was trying to figure out something, and she goes, "Do you have an IMDb page?" And I was like, "What? No, I didn't."
That's awesome.
That's cool. That's cool. I love acting. I've done some extra work, which was a blast. So much fun. But besides that, when I'm just at home, hang out with my dog, play some video games. I'm a big Nintendo Switch gamer. I love me Mario, Sonic, Pokemon, Zelda, Xenoblade, Fire Emblem. I have a scary list of games. I have a big old bookshelf that would put my girlfriend, she both loves it and hates it.
All right. Well, now you're speaking my second language. So I got to ask you, this might be difficult, but top 3 video games.
I know it off the top of my head.
All right.
And you'll see I'm a big RPG guy from this list. My favorite game of all time is Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
Okay.
Big into story. That game I probably put I think it's 250 hours in, 275 hours. That happened during, I think it was like Christmas break 2016, 2017. In 2017. And just every day put 10 hours plus into this game. Just getting grossed. I love a big old world getting grossed in. Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Fire Emblem Three Houses, and an old PS2 game called Dark Cloud.
The first one or the second one?
The first one. Oh, you know what I'm talking about, the first one.
Of course I know what you're talking about.
No one ever knows Dark Cloud. So I just accept that fact.
I mean, I prefer Dark Cloud 2 because I just love the cell shading graphics that they went to with that second one. And I think the action RPG element was a little bit more solid in that one.
I own Dark Cloud 2. I just haven't got the chance to play it yet. I have just this giant backlog of games.
I'm going to tell people, make sure you also check out the Short Kings podcast. I've been listening to some episodes. By the way, those Pokemon Game Boy Advance, knockoff t-shirts that you guys got are absolutely fire. Before we close out, I just want to ask you a question that I ask everybody, and it can be a little difficult sometimes, but I do find that it's definitely worth asking is, if you had a chance to go back and talk to a younger version of yourself that was just getting into wrestling, training, or maybe even just on the cusp of contemplating it, that might even translate to somebody who's on the fence right now. What advice would you give yourself?
Oh, that's a good one. Ooh. I guess the easy answer, but one that I think fits well for me, is take that leap, take that jump. I wasn't a risk taker a lot growing up. I played it by the books. I would, go to school, go home, do homework, and play video games. I was a very by the books person growing up. So the fact that I ended up actually meshing the school, taking that leap, and actually now I reach out to promotions constantly. I message people constantly. I put myself out with the videos and stuff like that. take that leap, take that jump, put yourself out there because you never know what could happen from it. I found many great friends through wrestling. Me and Reid, if I never let myself out of my bubble, who knows if the Short Kings would have ever happened. I would never have the friends I have. I would never have the life I have. I never have the girlfriend I have. I'm very grateful for everything in life. And it's all about taking those first steps, taking that leap, letting yourself go out there and just be who you are.
That's awesome. It doesn't always have to be the deepest thing. Sometimes, it just has to be to the point. This is what you needed to hear, right?
Yeah.
Before we sign out, can you just let people know once again who you are and maybe where they can follow you on social media if they want to see what you got coming up next?
Sure, ladies and gentlemen, I am the technical tactician, the Crimson Line, the wrestling specialist, Marz the Specialist, one half the Short Kings with the thickness, Reid Matthews. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram. I keep calling it Twitter. I'll never not call it Twitter. At Marz Specialist. You can find me on Facebook at Marz the Specialist, Pro Wrestling Tees, Marz the Specialist, Short Kings Podcast on YouTube and on Spotify. You can find me every month. Love Pro Wrestling. We are on IWTV. And, if I'm ever in Ontario again, I know I'm down in Ontario in May, catch me at a show.
Awesome. Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Of course, man. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to Independent Wrestling Profiles. Please help out the show if you can with a like, subscription, or review. We'll see you next time.